The crack of Jason's fist against Mary's jaw echoed through the Gangnam luxury mall like a gunshot. She collapsed into the Versace window display, glass ornaments exploding around her in a shower of gold and crimson. Blood bloomed at her temple, dripping onto the pristine marble floor as Christmas music played mockingly overhead. For 3 full seconds, the entire mall held its breath. Mary lifted her head slowly, tasting copper, feeling the sting where her cheek had split open. Through blurred vision, she saw him, Jason, the man who had abandoned her 3 years ago when she was pregnant and penniless. The man who had told her she was worthless, unlovable, forgettable. "Stay down where trash belongs," Jason snarled, standing over her with that familiar sneer of superiority. He had no idea who she had become. No idea about the platinum wedding band hidden beneath her leather glove. No idea about the penthouse overlooking the Han River she'd left that morning. No idea about the unlimited black card tucked in her modest purse. And Jason definitely had no idea about the man whose name she now carried. Lee Joon-gi, her husband, South Korea's most feared underground king whose empire stretched from Seoul to Busan. As Mary's trembling hand reached for her phone, as Joon-gi's name flashed across the screen, as she watched Jason's smug expression still radiating false dominance, she knew one thing with crystalline certainty. Jason just made the last mistake of his privileged life. Mary realized something powerful. Your past can only hurt you if you give it permission. Jason thought he was beating a ghost. He was actually striking a queen. And queens? They don't fight their own battles. They have kings who wage wars in their name. Lee Joon-gi was coming. And mercy wasn't in his vocabulary. Before we dive into how a man's arrogance destroyed his entire existence, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Because what happens next isn't just revenge. It's a masterclass in consequences. Now, let's get into the story. Mary stood in her walk-in closet, running her fingers along fabric that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Silk, cashmere, Italian leather. A rainbow of designer labels that still felt foreign even after 2 years of marriage. "You're doing it again," Joon-gi said from the doorway. She turned, finding him already dressed in a charcoal suit tailored so precisely it looked painted on. Her husband, still surreal to think those words. Lee Joon-gi, the man whispered about in Seoul's underground, feared in its highest circles, looked at her like she hung the moon. "Doing what?" she asked, though she knew. "Choosing the simplest thing in your closet." He crossed to her, hands sliding around her waist with practiced ease. "You have Chanel, Dior, Valentino. You reach for the black dress with no label. I like simple. I like spoiling you." His lips brushed her neck. "Humor me. You humor me by loving me exactly as I am." His expression softened in that way it only did for her, the ice melting to reveal warmth underneath. "Always," he murmured, then more seriously. "Where are you going today?" "Just the Gangnam Mall. Christmas shopping." Something flickered in his dark eyes. Joon-gi was protective to the point of obsession, a fact she both loved and occasionally found suffocating. "Take Min-ho and Tae with you." "Baby, I don't need bodyguards for my presence." His jaw tightened. When he spoke again, it wasn't her husband talking. It was the underground king. "Mary, you know what I am, what I do, the enemies that creates. You don't leave this penthouse without security. Non-negotiable." The steel in his voice was absolute. She cupped his face, feeling the tension in his jaw. "Okay, I'll take them." The relief in his shoulders was immediate. "Thank you." He checked his watch. Solid platinum, simple but obscenely expensive. "I have a meeting in Gangnam. I'll be done by 7. Dinner reservations at 8. "Where?" That dangerous smile. Surprise. "Where the red dress. The one that makes me forget my own name." Heat flooded her cheeks. "You're impossible. Only for you." The kiss he gave her was thorough enough to make her forget why she needed to leave it all. 2 hours later, Mary walked through the Gangnam luxury mall, with Min-ho and Tae maintaining discreet distance. The mall was a cathedral of wealth, marble floors reflecting crystal chandeliers, every storefront a monument to excess. Christmas decorations sparkled everywhere, Gold and silver elegance that probably cost more than her childhood home. She just exited a boutique, bags in hand, when time stopped. Jason, standing by the Louis Vuitton display, laughing with a woman who looked like she bathed in champagne and entitlement. He looked exactly the same. Same cocky smile. Same expensive clothes purchased with other people's money. Same swagger that had once made her feel special and later made her feel worthless. Mary's hands trembled. The shopping bags nearly slipped from her grip. 3 years. She thought she'd healed from this. Thought therapy and time and Joon-gi's love had sealed those wounds. But seeing Jason rip them open, fresh and bleeding, she should leave. Turn around. Walk away. Her feet wouldn't move. Jason looked up. Their eyes met. For a moment, nothing. Then recognition flashed across his face, followed by shock, then something uglier, contempt. He whispered something to the woman, then started walking toward Mary with that familiar predatory confidence. Every instinct screamed run, but she was frozen in place, trapped between past and present. Well, Jason drawled as he approached, voice dripping condescension. Mary, didn't expect to see you here. Thought you'd be at the discount stores where you belong. She found her voice barely. Jason, I have nothing to say to you. Still bitter? He looked her up and down like she was merchandise. Though I see you've upgraded a bit. Found some desperate fool to pay your bills? That's always been your talent. Playing victim until someone takes pity on you. The words hit like physical blows. Minho and Tae moved closer, sensing danger. You left me with nothing, Mary said quietly, hating how her voice shook. You stole everything from me. Jason's laugh was loud enough to turn heads. Stole? Baby, I liberated myself from a parasite. Best decision I ever made. You were so needy, so pathetic, expecting me to take care of you like you couldn't function without me. I was pregnant with your child. Was I supposed to care? His eyes went cold. I told you from the beginning I didn't want kids. You probably got pregnant on purpose, trying to trap me. Thank God I escaped when I did. Mary's vision blurred with tears. She refused to release. The woman Jason had been with approached, linking her arm through his possessively. Is this her? The woman asked, scanning Mary with barely concealed disgust. The ex who stalked you? Stalked. Mary's voice rose. I never... Don't make a scene. Jason cut her off. You're embarrassing yourself. As usual. He turned to leave, dismissing her completely. Something in Mary snapped. 3 years of rebuilding, of nights wondering why she hadn't been enough, of losing their baby because she'd been starving and homeless. You destroyed me, she said, voice breaking. I lost everything because of you. Our baby died because... Jason spun back, face twisted with rage. Don't you dare try to guilt me with that lie. It's not a lie. I lost our baby because I was starving and homeless and... Shut up. He moved toward her aggressively. Minho stepped between him instantly, hand inside his jacket, where Mary knew he kept his gun. Tae had his phone out, likely calling Joon-gi. Jason barely glanced at them. What? You hired some muscle to make you feel important? How much are you paying these guys to pretend you matter? Sir, step back, Minho said in heavily accented English, voice deadly calm. Or what? Jason shoved forward. It happened fast. Too fast for anyone to stop. His hand connected with Minho's chest. In the scuffle, Jason's fist swung wide, catching Mary's jaw with brutal force. She stumbled backward, hit a display stand, cried out as she fell, merchandise scattering, her bags flying, her head cracking against metal. The entire mall went silent. Mary looked up from the marble floor, blood trickling from her split temple, her elbows scraped raw, her dress torn. Jason stood over her, face red with rage and righteousness. Stay down where you belong, you worthless. He didn't finish. Minho had him on the ground in 2 seconds, arm twisted at an unnatural angle. Tae was helping Mary up, his face pale with fear, not for himself, but for what was coming. Because Joon-gi was going to lose his mind. Ma'am, are you hurt? Tae asked in Korean, then English. "We need to get you home." "I'm fine," Mary whispered. But she wasn't. Her hands shook. Her elbow throbbed. Worse was the emotional wound, ripped open and bleeding all over her carefully reconstructed life. Security guards rushed over. Jason's girlfriend was screaming. Other shoppers had their phones out, recording everything. "Let me go," Jason shouted, struggling against Minho's hold. "She's crazy. She attacked me." "Sir, we have video," one security guard said, gesturing to mall cameras. "We saw everything. You assaulted this woman." "She was harassing my boyfriend," the girlfriend shrieked. Mary's phone rang. Joon-gi's name flashed across the screen. Her hand trembled as she answered. "Hello, are you hurt?" His voice was eerily calm, which was somehow more terrifying than if he'd been yelling. "I'm okay. Just a scratch." "Don't lie to me, Mary. Are you hurt?" "My head is bleeding. I fell, but I'm fine." "Really? Who touched you?" She closed her eyes. Joon-gi. "Who? Touched? You?" "My ex-Jason. But it's fine, security has him." "Put Tae on the phone." She handed it over with shaking hands. Watched as Tae's expression went from nervous to absolutely terrified as he listened. He responded in rapid Korean, too fast for her intermediate skills to follow, then handed the phone back. "Baby," she said softly, "I'm 8 minutes away." His voice was pure ice. "Don't let him leave. If security tries to release him, tell them who you are. Use my name. Please don't do anything. He put his hands on you. He hurt you. There is no world, no universe, no version of reality where that man walks away without consequences. If this story has grabbed you already, like this video and subscribe, because what happens next will shock you." The line went dead. Mary looked at Jason, still pinned to the ground, still protesting his innocence. He had no idea what was coming. No idea that the countdown to his destruction had already begun. She almost felt sorry for him. Almost. 3 years earlier. Mary sat in her car, a 15-year-old Honda with a broken heater, and stared at the eviction notice taped to her apartment door. Behind her, in a trash bag, were the few possessions Jason hadn't stolen when he left. In her pocket, $17. In her belly, a baby she could barely feed. She called Jason 16 times. Each call went to voicemail. The 17th time he answered, "Stop calling me." "Jason, please. I'm being evicted. The baby." "That's not my problem anymore, Mary. I told you I didn't want kids. I told you I needed space. You wouldn't listen, so I left. Move on. You took my savings. You took everything. I took what I invested in us. You're not my responsibility." The line went dead. Mary sat in that car for 3 hours, trying to figure out how to survive on $17. Tried to convince herself that life was worth living. Trying to ignore the cramping in her belly that felt like her body was giving up. 2 weeks later, she woke in a pool of blood. Lost the baby alone in an emergency room where the nurses looked at her with pity because she had no insurance, no money, no one to call. That was the night Mary died. What came after was someone new. Present day. The mall security office was cramped and uncomfortable. Jason sat in a plastic chair, arms crossed, radiating indignant fury. His girlfriend, Brittany, Mary had heard him call her, stood behind him, scrolling through her phone with theatrical boredom. "This is ridiculous," Jason announced for the 5th time. "I'm the victim here. That woman has been stalking me for years. She attacked me, and your security assaulted me. I want them arrested. I want to press charges." The security chief, a tired-looking man named Park, rubbed his temples. "Sir, we have video footage showing you pushed our guard and struck the woman. Multiple witnesses confirm. The witnesses are wrong. The footage is manipulated. I didn't touch her." She felt trying to get attention. Jason leaned forward. "Do you know who I am? I'm a consultant for Hanover Financial. One call to my boss, and your mall loses its biggest tenant. You want to protect some nobody woman, or do you want to keep your job?" Mary sat in the corner, holding ice to her temple. Min-ho stood beside her like a silent sentinel. Tae was outside, speaking in hushed Korean on his phone. She should feel something. Anger, fear, vindication. Instead, she felt numb, like she was watching this happen to someone else. "Ma'am," Park said gently, turning to her. "Do you want to press charges?" Before Mary could answer, Jason laughed. Press charges? With what lawyer? With what money? He looked at her with pure contempt. You couldn't afford a public defender 3 years ago. What makes you think? The door opened. Tae stepped in, followed by a man in an expensive suit carrying a briefcase. Then another man. Then 3 more. All Korean. All radiating the kind of authority that makes rooms fall silent. The last man through the door was someone Mary didn't recognize, but everyone else clearly did. Park stood immediately. Brittany's phone clattered to the floor. Even Jason's smug expression flickered with uncertainty. "Chief Park," the man said in perfect English. "I'm Attorney Kwon. I represent Mrs. Lee." "Mrs. Lee?" Park looked confused. Attorney Kwon gestured to Mary. "Mrs. Lee Joon-gi." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Park's face went pale. "Lee Joon-gi? The Lee Joon-gi. Who's Lee Joon-gi?" Jason demanded, though something in his voice suggested he was starting to realize he'd miscalculated. Nobody answered him. Park was staring at Mary like she'd transformed into something mythical. "Ma'am, we didn't know. If we had known who you were." "You shouldn't need to know who someone is married to in order to protect them from assault," Mary said quietly. "But thank you for your help anyway." Attorney Kwon pulled out a tablet. "I have witness statements, video footage, medical documentation. Mr. Jason Wellington assaulted Mrs. Lee in a public space. We'll be pressing charges for assault, battery, and harassment." "Harassment?" Jason stood, finally finding his voice. "I don't even know this woman anymore. She's making this up." "You told multiple witnesses she was your ex-girlfriend," Kwon said calmly. "You detailed your past relationship while threatening her. That's established contact and history. The harassment charge will hold." "This is insane." Jason looked at Brittany. "Call my lawyer." "Call." His phone rang. He grabbed it. "Yes? What? What do you mean suspended?" "No, I didn't assault anyone." "Listen to me. Hello? Hello?" He stared at the dead phone in disbelief. Kwon smiled thinly. "That would be your employer. I believe they just placed you on administrative leave pending investigation." "How?" Jason's face was transforming from arrogant to afraid in real time. "You can't. I have rights." "You do, and you'll have ample opportunity to exercise them after you're processed and booked. Chief Park, please ensure Mr. Wellington remains here until the police arrive." Park nodded vigorously. Jason turned to Mary, and for the first time really looked at her, saw the quality of her simple dress, the subtle diamond studs at her ears, the platinum band on her finger that he dismissed as costume jewelry. "Who are you?" he whispered. Before Mary could answer, the door opened again. This time, the man who entered made everyone except Mary instinctively step back. Lee Joon-gi didn't rush, didn't shout, didn't need to. He walked into that cramped security office like he owned it, which, Mary suddenly realized, he probably did. He wore a black suit, perfectly tailored. His dark hair was styled back. His expression was absolutely calm. But his eyes were murder. He crossed directly to Mary, ignoring everyone else in the room, knelt beside her chair, took her face in his hands with infinite gentleness, and examined the cut on her temple, the bruise blooming on her jaw. "Show me your hands," he said softly in Korean. She held them out. They were shaking. "Your elbow." She showed him the scraped, bleeding elbow. Joon-gi said nothing, just looked at her injuries with that terrible, calm expression. Then he stood, buttoned his suit jacket, and turned to face Jason. The room held its breath. "You are Jason Wellington," Joon-gi said. Not a question, a statement. Jason, to his credit, managed to nod. "You put your hands on my wife." Look, there's been a misunderstanding." You made her bleed. She fell. I didn't. It was an accident. Joon-gi took one step closer. Jason stumbled backward into his chair. My name is Lee Joon-gi, he said quietly. Do you know what that means? Jason's face suggested he was beginning to understand. It means that your bank accounts are currently being frozen. It means that every company you've ever applied to is receiving documentation of this assault. It means that your landlord is reviewing your lease for violations. It means that every friend, every contact, every person who might help you is receiving a very simple message. Help Jason Wellington and you help my enemy. You can't. That's illegal. Is it? Joon-gi tilted his head. Prove it. Hire a lawyer. Oh, wait. You can't. Because no law firm in Seoul will take your case. I've made sure of that. Comment below. Should Joon-gi end him here or make him suffer longer? Jason looked around wildly, at Park, at Kwon, at anyone who might help, found only turned faces and uncomfortable silence. This is insane, he whispered. She's not worth this. She's nothing. She's... The slap came so fast Jason didn't see it coming. Not from Joon-gi. From Mary. She stood, hands stinging, eyes blazing. I am not nothing, she said, voice steady now. I am not worthless. I am not the woman you abandoned. I survived you, Jason. I rebuilt myself from ashes you left behind. And now, she gestured to Joon-gi, to the lawyers, to the reality closing in around Jason. Now you get to learn what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. Joon-gi's hand found hers, squeezed gently. To Jason, he said, the police will be here in 3 minutes. You'll be charged, processed, and held. You'll make bail barely, and then your real education begins. Because I don't kill men like you, Mr. Wellington. Death is mercy. I don't give mercy. He turned to leave, guiding Mary with him. At the door, he paused. Oh, and Mr. Wellington, that phone call you received from your employer? That was just the beginning. By tomorrow morning, you won't have a job, a home, or a future, and you'll have nothing but time to remember the woman you thought was worthless. The door closed behind them. In the hallway, Mary's legs finally gave out. Joon-gi caught her, held her while she shook with delayed shock and 3 years of suppressed pain. I've got you, he murmured. I've always got you. The penthouse was silent when they returned. Joon-gi's men had cleared the building, ensuring complete privacy. Mary sat on her leather couch, cleaned and bandaged, wearing one of Joon-gi's soft T-shirts, and still felt like she was vibrating out her skin. Joon-gi poured her tea, sat beside her, didn't speak. After a long moment, Mary said, You didn't have to do all that. Yes, he said simply. I did. It's too much. Destroying his career, his life. He put his hands on you, Mary. He made you bleed. There is no version of events where that goes unpunished. Joon-gi's voice was still that terrible calm. If I showed mercy, if I did nothing, what message does that send? That my wife can be hurt without consequences? That would make you a target for everyone who wants to hurt me. She understood the logic. In his world, mercy was weakness. But this was her past, her pain, and watching Jason's destruction felt like reopening wounds she tried to heal. I loved him once, she said quietly. The man who just attacked me, I loved him. I would have married him. I wanted to build a life with him. I know. Part of me still mourns what I thought we had. Does that make me weak? Joon-gi took her face in his hands. It makes you human. It makes you capable of love even after being broken. That's not weakness. That's strength I will never have. You love me. I possess you. I would burn the world for you. That's not the same as the open-hearted love you gave him. The love you somehow still give me, even knowing what I am. He kissed her forehead. Don't confuse my revenge with your healing. What I do to Jason Wellington is about me, not you. You get to feel however you feel about him. I'm the one who deals with the consequences of his actions. Mary closed her eyes. What's going to happen to him? Do you want to know? Did she? Part of her wanted Jason to hurt like she'd hurt. Part of her wanted to forget he existed. Part of her, the part that had loved him once, didn't want anyone destroyed, even him. Tell me, she finally said. Joon-gi's phone buzzed. He checked it, then began speaking as if reading a report. Jason Wellington, age 34, employed by Hanover Financial as a senior consultant, salary $180,000 annually, lives in a rental apartment in Gangnam for $1,500 monthly rent, has $43,000 in student loan debt, credit score 720. You know, all that already? I knew it before we left the mall. My people are thorough. He scrolled. As of 1 hour ago, suspended from Hanover Financial without pay, pending investigation. Investigation will find creative accounting irregularities. Nothing provable, yet but enough to make him unhireable. His apartment landlord received an anonymous tip about unauthorized modifications and noise complaints. Eviction proceedings begin tomorrow. His bank flagged unusual account activity. Nothing illegal, just enough to freeze his accounts temporarily while they investigate. That investigation will take weeks. Mary felt cold. You're framing him? I'm not framing anyone. I'm simply ensuring that every small violation he's ever committed gets examined simultaneously. The rest? Natural consequences. Joon-gi set down his phone. But that's just the opening move. What else? His girlfriend, Brittany Chun, received videos of him with 3 other women last month. She's currently calling him every name imaginable on social media. His Instagram is being flooded with comments about the mall assault, video leaked somehow. Joon-gi's expression was neutral, but Mary knew he'd orchestrated the leak. His father, Judge Richard Wellington, has disowned him publicly to save his own reputation. His mother stopped answering his calls. His family abandoned him, Mary said, recognizing the poetry. Yes. How long will this last? Joon-gi met her eyes. As long as I wanted to. But I suspect Jason will solve the problem himself soon enough. What does that mean? Men like Jason Wellington don't handle humiliation well. He'll do something stupid. Get arrested again. Violate bail conditions. Make public threats. And each time he does, I'll be there to make sure the consequences are worse than he imagined. Joon-gi took her hand. He'll destroy himself, Mary. I'm just creating the conditions for his self-destruction. 3 days passed. Mary watched from a distance as Jason's life imploded. Day 1. Evicted from his apartment. His belongings put in storage he couldn't afford to pay for. Day 2. Formally terminated from Hanover Financial. The investigation found just enough irregularity to justify firing without severance. Day 3. Arrested for public intoxication after screaming at strangers about conspiracies. Bail revoked. Back in jail. His social media became a monument to his breakdown. Rambling posts about being targeted. Paranoid rants about Korean Mafia. Desperate pleas for help that went unanswered. Mary watched it all on her laptop, feeling nothing and everything at once. He's falling apart, she said to Joon-gi over dinner. Yes. How much further will you push? How much further do you want me to? The question hung in the air. Mary thought about the woman she'd been 3 years ago, crying in that car with $17 and a baby dying inside her. Thought about the nights she'd wished Jason would understand what he'd done to her. Wish he would hurt like she'd hurt. But now, watching him actually suffer, she felt hollow. Revenge wasn't sweet. It was ash in her mouth. I wanted to stop, she said finally. Not because he deserves mercy. Because I deserve peace. Joon-gi studied her for a long moment, then nodded. It stops. Just like that. You want him to stop suffering? He stops. You want him destroyed completely? He's destroyed. You're my wife, Mary. Your word is law. He reached across the table. But understand, he'll still face consequences. The charges won't disappear. His reputation won't recover. I'm just saying I won't actively make it worse. That's enough, Mary said. More than enough. That night, Mary dreamed about the baby she'd lost. In the dream, she was holding a daughter with curly hair in Jason's eyes, and the baby kept fading like smoke whenever Mary tried to hold on. She woke crying. Joon-gi was already awake, holding her. Tell me, he said. So she did. Told him about the pregnancy. About starving because she couldn't afford food. about the cramping that turned into bleeding, about the emergency room where nurses pitted her, about holding that impossibly small baby girl who never took a breath. I named her Hope, Mary whispered, because I thought if I named her something beautiful, maybe she'd fight to stay. But she didn't, and Jason never knew, never cared. Joon-gi held her tighter. She mattered. She was real. And you survived losing her, which means you're stronger than anyone who's never had to. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't feeling invincible. It's surviving the unsurvivable and choosing to keep living anyway. He kissed her temple, right where the bruise was fading. You did that. Jason couldn't break you then. He definitely can't break you now. The next morning, Mary received a call from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Mary, a woman's voice hesitant. This is Brittany, Jason's ex-girlfriend. Mary's breath caught. How did you get this number? I'm calling from the jail. They let Jason make a call, and he begged me to call you to ask you to drop the charges. No, please, just listen. I know what he did was wrong. I know he hurt you, but he's falling apart. He's talking about killing himself. He deserves everything happening to him, Mary said, surprised by the coldness in her own voice. He left me homeless and pregnant. He stole from me. He let our baby die. And when I survived all of that, when I rebuilt myself, he assaulted me in public. So no, Brittany, I won't drop the charges. I won't show mercy he never showed me. Silence. Then, quietly, he told me you trapped him with a pregnancy. He said you were crazy, obsessed. I believe him. Men like Jason always have a version of events where they're the victim. I'm sorry for what he did to you, for what I said at the mall. I didn't know. Now you do. For what it's worth, I left him too. After I saw the videos, after I talked to his friends and heard the real stories. You weren't the first woman he destroyed. You were just the one who survived and came back stronger. Brittany's voice cracked. I hope he gets everything he deserves. The line went dead. Mary sat with the phone in her hand, feeling something shift inside her chest. Not forgiveness, not satisfaction, just closure. Jason had tried to erase her, make her nothing. Instead, he'd force her to become someone who couldn't be erased, couldn't be dismissed, couldn't be broken. In trying to destroy her, he'd forge her into steel. 2 weeks later, Jason Wellington was convicted of assault and battery, sentenced to 18 months in prison, 3 years probation, mandatory anger management. His appeals were denied. His lawyer, a public defender who barely knew his name, gave up after one hearing. Mary didn't attend the sentencing. Didn't need to. That chapter of her life was closed. What she did instead would have surprised the woman she'd been 3 years ago. The press conference was Mary's idea. Joon-gi had tried to talk her out of it. You don't owe the public anything, but she'd insisted. Not for Jason. For herself. For every woman who'd ever been made to feel worthless by someone who claimed to love them. The room was packed with reporters, cameras, curious onlookers. Mary stood at the podium in a blue dress, Joon-gi beside her in silent support, and cleared her throat. 3 years ago, I was homeless, pregnant, and penniless. The man I loved had abandoned me after stealing everything I had. I lost my baby because I couldn't afford to eat. I spent nights in my car wondering if life was worth living. The room was silent. 2 weeks ago, that same man assaulted me in a public mall. He beat me bloody in front of witnesses because he still believed I was worthless, still believed I was nothing. Mary took a breath. But here's what I want women to understand. You are never nothing. Even when you have $17. Even when you're sleeping in your car. Even when the person who promised to love you treats you like garbage. You are never, ever nothing. Her voice strengthened. I rebuilt my life. I found real love. I found my own power. And when my past came back to attack me, I had the strength and the resources to fight back. But not every woman does. Not every woman survives what I survived. She leaned forward. So today, I'm announcing the Hope Foundation, named after my daughter who didn't survive. a foundation dedicated to helping women escape abusive situations, to providing housing, healthcare, legal support, and job training, to making sure that no woman has to choose between staying with her abuser and sleeping in her car. The room erupted in questions, but Mary held up her hand. I'm not here for revenge. I'm not here to destroy Jason Wellington. He's done that to himself. I'm here to make sure his actions led to something good, something that will help women who are where I was 3 years ago. A reporter called out, "Mrs. Lee, do you forgive Jason Wellington?" Mary considered the question. I don't forgive him. Forgiveness would require him to acknowledge what he did, to show genuine remorse. He hasn't. What I've done is accept that he's a broken person who hurt me, and I've chosen to move forward without letting his brokenness define my life. That's not forgiveness. That's self-preservation. Do you think he's suffered enough? I think suffering isn't the point. Justice is. Accountability is. Making sure he can't hurt another woman is. Whether he suffered enough is between him and whatever conscience he might eventually develop. How does your husband feel about all this? Mary glanced at Joon-gi, who hadn't spoken once. You'd have to ask him. The reporter, emboldened, directed the question to Joon-gi. Mr. Lee, how do you feel about your wife starting this foundation? Joon-gi looked at the reporter with those cold, assessing eyes. Then he looked at Mary, and something in his expression softened. I feel proud. My wife took her pain and transformed it into purpose. That takes a strength I don't possess. I'm honored to support her in any way I can. Are the rumors true that you orchestrated Jason Wellington's downfall? I ensured justice was served. Joon-gi said simply, nothing more, nothing less. The way he said it left no room for follow-up questions. 6 months later, the Hope Foundation opened its first shelter. 20 beds, full kitchen, child care facilities, legal aid office, job training center. Everything Mary had needed and didn't have. The opening ceremony was emotional. Women came to share their stories. Mary listened to each one, saw herself reflected in their pain and their resilience. One woman, young and scared, approached Mary afterward. I saw what happened to you. At the mall, I saw how you got back up. That's why I left my boyfriend. Because if you could survive, maybe I could too. Mary hugged her. You can. You will. As they drove home that night, Joon-gi said, you changed that woman's life today. She changed her own life. I just showed her it was possible. That's what I love about you, he said. You could have stayed broken. Could have let Jason's cruelty define you. Instead, you took your brokenness and turned it into something beautiful. I had help. I had you. You had yourself first. I just provided resources. The strength was always yours. Back at the penthouse, Mary stood at the window overlooking Seoul. The city glittered like a jewel box. Somewhere out there, Jason was in prison, probably still convinced he was a victim. Somewhere out there, women were surviving what she'd survived. And here, in this impossible life she'd built from ashes, Mary was whole, not healed. Healing was ongoing, would probably be lifelong, but whole, complete, herself. Joon-gi wrapped his arms around her from behind. What are you thinking? That 3 years ago, I wanted to die, and now I'm standing in a penthouse overlooking a city where I'm making a difference. Life is strange. Life is what you make of it. Then I made something good. You made something extraordinary. She turned in his arms. Thank you. For the revenge I needed but couldn't ask for. For the support I didn't know how to accept. For loving me when I didn't know how to love myself. Always, he said simply. Then, with that dangerous smile, now, about that red dress I've been thinking about. Mary laughed, really laughed, for the first time in what felt like years. You're impossible. Only for you. 1 year later, Jason Wellington was released from prison early for good behavior. He walked out of the facility with nothing, no job prospects, no home, no friends. His father had died while he was inside. His mother had remarried and moved abroad. He took a bus to Seoul, thinking maybe he could rebuild, start over, disappear into the city. On his first day back, he walked past a new building in Gangnam, the Hope Foundation. Women were going in and out, laughing, carrying babies, holding folders that probably contained job offers and lease agreements. On the wall, a photo, Mary, cutting a ribbon at the opening ceremony. She looked radiant, powerful, happy. Jason stared at that photo for a long time. Finally understood what he'd done, what he'd destroyed, what he could have had if he'd been a better man. But understanding came too late. It always did. He walked away from the foundation, from soul, from the life he'd lost, disappeared into obscurity where men like him belonged. And Mary? Mary never thought about him again. 5 years after that day in the mall, Mary stood in a different kind of gallery. Not a mall, but an art exhibition showcasing work by women who graduated from the Hope Foundation's programs. Paintings, sculptures, photographs. Each piece told a story of survival and transformation. Mary walked through the exhibition with her hand on her rounded belly. 7 months pregnant. A daughter, the doctor said. She and Joon-gi had decided to name her Grace. Not Hope. That name belonged to the daughter she'd lost. But Grace, because that's what had saved Mary in the end. The grace to forgive herself for not leaving Jason sooner. The grace to accept Joon-gi's love even when she felt unworthy. The grace to transform pain into purpose. She's kicking, Mary said, placing Joon-gi's hand on her belly. He smiled, that rare, genuine smile he only showed her. Strong, like her mother. Stubborn, like her father. A dangerous combination. Mary looked around at the art, at the women who created it, at the life she'd built from nothing. The best things usually are. Outside, Seoul glittered under sunset skies. A city full of stories, of pain and resilience, destruction and rebirth, revenge and redemption. This was Mary's story. And it had a happy ending after all. Not because her enemy was destroyed, but because she rebuilt herself into someone who didn't need enemies to feel powerful. That was the greatest revenge of all. Subscribe for more powerful stories of survival, transformation, and justice. Your support helps us share stories that matter.